Bonjour Year 11! Here is your night before news video for the higher listening paper. The listening and reading exam are worth 50% altogether, and the exam is on the 14th of May, and the writing exam is your final 25%, and that is on Friday the 24th of May, the final day before the half term. One of the most important bits of advice that I can give you for the listening is to stay calm. You're not going to be the only person that's thinking, I don't get any of this. In fact, you're not supposed to understand absolutely every word. It's more of a test to see who can pick out the key words and make educated guesses based on those. You shouldn't leave any questions blank. We need all the marks we can get so that we can add up to a fantastic overall score. There is some multiple choice. However, the open-ended questions, if you're really unsure, guess something that seems logical based on what you've heard in the rest of the recording and what you know about the topic. At the start of the exam, you are given 5 minutes reading time. This is crucial. If you use this properly, you can begin the exam feeling as though you already sort of know the content of what you're about to hear. If we take a look at the 2019 boundaries, which were the harsher ones, we can see that getting 31 marks out of 50 is kind of a safe amount for a grade 7. So you want to aim for at least 31 marks, and anything above that would be fantastic. The 5 minutes reading time is a gift from the examiner. You can go through the paper and familiarise yourself with the topics. You really need to go to question 1 first because it needs preparation. This is the question which also appears on the foundation paper, where you were given a box with the potential answers in. Only certain answers will fit each sentence. Therefore, if you prep the answer, you should be able to limit yourself to 2 or maybe 3 words, which will make it a lot easier when you hear the recording. For example, in this one, I can immediately see that I've been given intéressant and ennuyeux. So these are opposites. When I start to read through the questions, this will help me to work out where the words might fit. I should also look at grammar. If I've got AUX, I'm expecting a plural word to follow it. So if I start by putting my words into categories, like interesting and boring, they're opposites. Beaucoup and peu, a lot or a little, opposites. Ordinateur, équipement sportif, so computers or sports equipment, they're things that a school might have or might need. Près ou loin, near or far. Club, voyage, they're both things that you can attend and they're both plural. And then we've got dessin, art, which is kind of just left by itself. Sometimes you can't really group them equally and you'll end up with some leftover words. But at least by putting them into categories, it can help you to find the right answer. If you look at grammar, for example, anything with les must be leading up to a plural word ending in s or x. So for example, in this one, the lessons are interesting. It's got an S on the end, which matches les and the S on the word lessons. It could also be boring because having an X on the end can also be plural. If you see something like this, so you've got D apostrophe, you know that the next word is going to start with a vowel or a silent H. So that can also give you a clue. And this sentence says there are not enough, it could be computers, it could be sports equipment. If you see AUX, as we mentioned before, you're looking for something that's plural. For the next one, we've got she spends, so it could be a little bit or lots of time. Remember, beaucoup is always followed by de, beaucoup de temps, lots of time. And for the last one, the only category that we haven't really used is the yellow one. And if we read the sentence, it says she lives blank from school. So she lives near to school or far from school. Now that I've done this, I have a much better chance of getting the right answer when I hear the recording because I've limited myself to 50-50 guesses. So now I just have to listen for a keyword in the recording and hopefully I will choose the right one. So let's try a different one. Remember, you can pause the video and do this one for yourself and then listen to me go through it and see if you got it right, or you can complete it along with me. So for this one straight away, I can see people. So it's sa mère, his or her mum, son frère, his or her brother, son père, his or her dad. So one of them is going to be about people. Then I've got places. So I've got cinéma, restaurant. I've got adjectives, strict, généreuse, jeune, strict or generous or young. And I've got time phrases, souvent, often, rarement, rarely. And left over, I've got some countries. So I've got la France, and you can see l'Algérie was crossed out. So they've already used this one. Sometimes if I've got a word that matches a word that's already been used, I kind of assume that that word won't come up again. So when I'm looking at the sentences, the first one I've got, in the family, they argue, they dispute. So I think it's going to be often or rarely. I think it will be a time phrase. The next one, his or her brother is the most. So surely it's something describing the brother. So young or generous or strict. But would you describe your brother as strict? Maybe. You know, we've got to see what's on the recording. Samir gets on best with. So it's got to be a person, hasn't it? Who does he get on the best with? And we might get a kind of clue depending on what they say about the brother. The dad is, could be young, couldn't it? Could be generous, could be strict. And on a Sunday, the family goes, va, il va, elle va, to the, and we can see, I mean, it doesn't really help us here because we don't have lots of options of places, but we've got AU. AU is going to be followed by a masculine place, but we only have like 2 masculine places. I guess you wouldn't put on Sunday the families go to France, because then it would say en France, not au la France. But anyway, so it could be cinema, it could be restaurant. So once again, by splitting this up, I give myself a much better chance of finding the right answer, and I make productive use of my 5 minutes reading time. If you're quick at putting question 13 into categories, something else that you can consider doing during the 5 minutes is reading the title of each question and making a short list of words which you think might come up. So for example, if the title was going to the cinema, I would be expecting to hear regarder un film de guerre, les billets. Now notice I haven't listed every single type of film like un film d'action, because they're quite easy ones. If that comes up, I'm not going to have to like dig back in my memory to remember what an action film is. I've listed the weirder words for the topic. Problems in my town. So again, I'm looking for like, what are the typical words that the examiners use that are very different to English words? You can pause and come up with your own list, or you can just continue and listen with me. So I've gone for la circulation, traffic, les déchets, litter, les SDF, homelessness, homeless people. Again, the examiners are likely to pick this kind of word because it's unusual, and they want to test to see if you've learnt the more unusual words or if your French is very basic. A music event in Lorient. Sometimes you'll see a word and you'll think, I've never heard that before in my lessons. However, if it's got a capital letter, remember it's probably the name of a place or the name of a person. So this one, look, a music event in Lorient, it's a place. So I'm thinking that I'm going to hear fête, fête, festival, celebration, fort, bouillant, loud, noisy. Les feux d'artifice, artificial fire, so we call that fireworks. School subjects, what are the weirdest ones? Le dessin, l'OPS, le devoir, something like this. My job in a zoo. So this is obviously from the jobs and future plans topic, but it's a little bit of a more unusual one to come up. Le travail, les animaux, le salaire, I imagine it's going to be something along those lines. While you're making this list of words by looking at the title, you can also read through the potential answers, and that will give you an even greater insight into what you're about to hear. So in this one, you're going to have to pick between horror, comedy, animated, and action. So you could start to write down the words that you're expecting. Again, I often don't bother writing down the ones where they're too obvious, like action or comédie, because I think, well, I'll know that one if I hear it. Make sure you revise numbers before the test, because the examiners really enjoy testing your knowledge of basic year 7 things that you might have forgotten, especially on foundation. They like to put time phrases. So here you might hear 19:15, 19:15, or you might hear it described like past, you might hear 30, 19:30. When you see the non-multiple choice questions, you could always try to predict a sensible answer. So for example, name one task that the zookeeper has to do. Without even listening to the tape, we could predict that it could be something like cleaning the animals, feeding the animals, buying new animals. How do we know that he cares for the animals he works with? It could be that he puts in extra hours, he cleans them, he feeds them, he knows all the names of the animals. Now, it's quite unlikely that the same answer would come up twice. So if I already heard the recording say, oh, one of the tasks is feeding the animals, I imagine that it's going to be something different for the second question. But this is just before I've even heard the tape, what I'm predicting that I might hear, just so that I give my brain less work when I'm actually hearing the recording. One disadvantage of his job, well, working in a zoo, it might not smell the best. Maybe it's really tiring, maybe his salary's low. So even if something a bit strange comes up that's different to the kind of questions we've done in class, think of what it might say if the recording was in English. What would be a typical answer for this type of scenario? Always check how many answers you need to give. So for example, on this one, it clearly says that you need to put a cross in each one of the 3 correct boxes, and you can see that the total number of marks for the question is 3. There are 3 different people, so each person will have 1 answer. That will give you 3 total crosses. Don't make the mistake of putting 3 crosses for each person, because that will give you a total of 9 marks, and this question is only worth 3 marks. So always read all of the information very carefully and don't just make assumptions. When it comes to listening to the recording, remember that sometimes they will deliberately mention all of the answers in order in one paragraph. So don't just write the first answer you hear. If straight away you hear cinema, that might not be the answer. They might be saying, oh, my dad likes the cinema, but I prefer going to the park. So make sure you listen fully to the section. As we've practiced in class, pay special attention to when you hear someone say pas, because that means they don't go or they don't like that place. So if you have a look at the script for this one, you can see that they mention canoeing, they mention sailing, they mention water skiing. However, if you have a look at little words, small but deadly words, phrases such as mais, time phrases, you should be able to pick out the right answer. Just don't jump to the first one you hear. So in this one, we're looking for where does he like to go? So not just where does he go, which is the one he likes to do. So you can see that he's saying there is a lake where you can do some sailing. So he doesn't say he likes to, he says where you can do some sailing or canoeing, even water skiing. So he's just telling you what you can do at the lake. But then clearly on the next line, you see it's the fishing that interests me. So the correct answer for that one has to be fishing, because even though they mention all of the other ones, we can see that the one that interests him is pêche, fishing. That's his favourite one. So that's the kind of trick that they're going to pull. But if you're listening carefully and if you're prepared for it, you should be able to work out the right answer. There are lots of little words in French which some students ignore while they're reading. This is very dangerous because they can actually change the whole meaning of the sentence, so you need to look out for them. That's why we call them the small but deadly words. Sometimes they are synonyms, they mean the same as each other. For example, easy and simple. Or sometimes they are antonyms, they mean the opposite, easy and difficult. You need to make sure that you've revised the small but deadly words. You can do this by pausing this screen and looking up any words that you don't know, or you can have a look on Vocab Slam because there's a whole set called Small But Deadly Words which has all of the words which might possibly come up in the exams. And while we're on the subject of Vocab Slam, if you go onto it and you look at the exam zone and exam vocab, you can go through all of the keywords from the past papers, or you can pick a set that's called Examiner's Favourites, which has keywords which we've seen coming up again and again on all of the past exams. I would recommend that you spend some time doing this tonight after watching this video and tomorrow morning right before your exam. There are a few non-multiple choice questions where you need to give precise answers. In the higher paper, there are about 6 questions over reading section A and B, which are open-ended and not multiple choice. And on the listening, you've only got 3 of these questions. However, one of them is worth 10 marks. So it's very important that you know how to answer this style of question. Take a look at this mark scheme, for example. There are some answers which were accepted and some rejected. If you wrote to connect with people, you would have scored your mark. However, just by adding re to the front of connect, your answer is rejected. Therefore, it's important to be precise when you're giving your answers. Listen to this recording about the world of work. Have a go at answering the questions on the screen, being as precise as you can. For example, if a number is mentioned, give that number. If a time phrase is mentioned, give that time phrase. Here you go.
Question 5, Part A. Mon frère travaille pour un magasin de sport, Décathlon. Mon frère travaille pour un magasin de sport, Décathlon. Question 5, Part B. On lui donne des réductions sur tous les produits. On lui donne des réductions sur tous les produits. Question 5, Part C. Il doit travailler le samedi. Il doit travailler le samedi. Question 5, Part D. Les autres employés sont marrants. Les autres employés sont marrants.
Remember, if you need to, you can go back in this video and listen to the recording again. However, we're going to have a look at the answers and see what the mark scheme wants.
Question 5, Part A. Mon frère. Question 5, Part A. Mon frère.
So here are some answers that you might have put for this question. So where does the brother work? In a shopping centre. What's the advantage of working there? Everything is reduced. Why does Didier's brother dislike his job? The shop is open on Saturday. And what do you learn about other people who work there? Lots of fun. What do we think about these answers? Are they precise? Are they accurate? Do you have better answers? So, let's compare these answers to the script. Are they precise and accurate? So in this one, we've got where does his brother work? In a shopping centre. We can see that the script says un magasin de sport. So you might have heard the words shop and put shopping centre, but they actually mention sport and look, Decathlon, the name of the shop. So this would not be accepted. It needs to be a sports shop. That's precise about the type of shop that he works in. What is the advantage of working there? Everything is reduced. Is that true? It does mention reductions, but it says on lui donne des réductions. So he receives reductions because he works there. The thing that he dislikes about his job, il doit travailler le samedi. So it doesn't really answer the question to say the shop is open on Saturday. It's he must work on Saturday. That's the thing that personally affects the brother. And what do you learn about the other people who work there? Marrant. So marrant is not fun, it's funny. Okay, so the other employees are very funny. So you can see how just by putting a slightly similar answer, you need to be quite precise. You need to listen for the words around the main words in order to be precise and get the most accurate answer on these questions. So let's try this other one. If you didn't have a go at the other one by yourself, you can try this one for a little bit of practice. So this one is about the French and TV, so TV viewing habits. Listen to the recording and try to make very precise and accurate notes.
The French and TV. Question 8. La télévision est toujours populaire et les Français regardent la télé 3 heures par jour en moyenne. Ils ont le choix entre 130 chaînes et ils choisissent de préférence des émissions américaines. Les adultes préfèrent les documentaires français, mais les jeunes regardent plus les émissions de télé-réalité comme koh. La télévision est toujours populaire et les Français regardent la télé 3 heures par jour en moyenne. Ils ont le choix entre 130 chaînes et ils choisissent de préférence des émissions américaines. Les adultes préfèrent les documentaires français, mais les jeunes regardent plus les émissions de télé-réalité comme koh.
So what do you think of these answers? Are they accurate? Are they precise? 300 hours. How much TV do French people watch on average per day? Does that sound right? Overall, which programs are the most popular? American. What kind of programs do young French people prefer? American and documentaries. What do you think? So, I'm hoping that you were reading my answer thinking, that's a little bit ridiculous. How could French people watch 300 hours of TV a day? Sometimes with all the nerves of the exam, you might write something that's a little bit bizarre, but that's why I've told you, try to take some deep breaths, take it calmly, read the question, spend the 5 minutes reading time thinking about what sensible answers might be. Okay, so if you hear the number 3 and that's all you hear, think about it. What would a sensible guess be? Now, you can see here the script. 3 heures, so 3, but can we just put 3? Is that accurate? Is that precise? No, you need to actually explain it. You need to put 3 hours because otherwise it won't actually tell you the right answer, will it? It could be 3 minutes of TV. So you've got to try to explain exactly what you're hearing and be as precise as you can. For the next one, which programs are the most popular? We've got préférence, émission. Remember, it's nothing to do with emissions, it's to do with television. American. So American shows, so this one is correct. And for the last one, you've got what kind of programs do young French people prefer? So if it's a preference, there shouldn't be 2, should there? There should be 1 type, and it's only worth 1 mark. So putting 2 answers here is a bit risky. Is it likely to be American if you already put that for an answer? Probably not. So even though you definitely heard the word américain, you can see later on it says les jeunes, young people, regardent plus, more, plus, télé-réalité. So it should just be reality TV shows. So if it is only worth 1 mark, go with your most confident, or like your best answer. Question 9 is the longer open-ended one, where you need to answer in English and you need to be very specific. If you have a look at the script here, you can see that this type of question often has percentages, numbers, dates, so make sure you revise numbers before the test. Have a look at this one, pause and see if you can work out what the answers would be based on having the script in front of you. That's everything for the listening exam. Remember, your overall strategy is to listen for the keywords and make educated guesses. You shouldn't leave anything blank. You have quite a few multiple choice questions, but even the open-ended questions you can have a good guess at. At the start of the exam, make sure you use your 5 minutes reading time properly. This is crucial. Go straight away to question 1 and make sure that you put the words into categories. You can also look for synonyms in question 2, and you can generally go through the paper and write down the words you're expecting to hear. Looking at the grade boundaries, we want to aim for about 31 marks at least out of 50. Anything you can get over that is a plus. Well done for watching this video with my final tips before your listening exam tomorrow. What you can do tonight is keep revising your keywords. Remember, the more vocabulary you know, the easier the test is going to be. You can also go over the scripts in the Easter booklets. These are all the scripts of what has come up in previous listening exams. The same types of questions and the same words come up over and over again. So by reading that, that will help you out a lot. You can also have a look at the listening booklets that I've sent out to your emails. But please remember to get a lot of rest, because your brain is going to be on top form tomorrow morning as you complete these exams. See you tomorrow. Bonne chance. Au revoir.